Morning. I'm just going to give people a couple of minutes to join and then we'll get started with the answers to the questions from Tuesday's lesson. Hi everyone, so we're going to start looking at the questions we had from last week and I'm going to start coding through them. Okay, so the first question was, create two variables that hold the width and height of a rectangle, work out and store the area in a third variable, then print out the string rectangle of width and then the width variable and the height variable has an area of area variable. Okay, so the first thing it wanted was two variables that hold width and height. So I'll call the first one width and I'll give it hard-coded a value first, and then the next one I'll hard-code another value. Okay, and then I'm going to create a variable called area, and to work out the width, the area, it's width times height, so that's what I'll store here. And then I'm going to just test that my area variable is working. So that's worked, that's fine. So now I'm going to be able to print out my whole string. And because these parts are string, I need to make sure that they're in quote marks. And if I run that, will it work or will I get an error? Correct. So Danny Wanny Woohoo 4 has correctly pointed out that because we haven't cast these to strings, it's not going to work. So we'll just run it and just check. So we need to just add on Yeah, so it says here, can only concatenate string, not int to string. So then we have to concatenate anything that is an integer. We have to change it to a string if we're going to add it or concatenate it to create a full sentence. And that's worked, but you can see you just need to add some more spaces to make it look a bit nicer. And then we can also refactor our code, so we can change it so that the customer can, or the user can give us an input rather than us having to hard code the width and the height. So we can, because we know it's going to be an integer, we need to put int input. And we can do the same for height. And we can see if that works. So we can give a new width and a new height, and it still works for us. So that's just a way that you can refactor your code to make it just a little bit better. Okay, let's look at number 2. So write code that prints the length of the string Python. So we can do this in 2 ways. So we can just put the string straight into the print, and then just put len round the string, and that will show us the length. Or we can put the word as a variable and then check the length of the word, and it'll give us the same thing. That means we can just change this to another word and it'll give us the length. So that's 2 different ways of finding out the length of a string. And remember, a string is characters within quote marks. So every time I've done with that bit of code, I'll just comment it out. And that means it won't run when I'm doing the next question. If I don't comment it out, it will just keep running. And the ways you can do that is you highlight it and you press Command/ if you're on a MacBook, or Control/, and that'll comment it both ways. Okay, so we are now going to print out the first and third letter of the word Python. So I'm going to create a variable called word. I'm going to store Python within it, and then I'm going to print word. And if I want the first and third letter, what index numbers will I have to use? Correct, you will need 0 and 2. So if we do print word 0 and print word index 2, we get the first and the third letter of the word Python. You can also, how we did it with question 2, you can just put the string in. And you'll get the same outcome. So you can store the string in a variable, or you can just use the string. Okay, so now we're going to ask the user to enter their name and print out hello name. So the first thing we need is an input. I'm going to store the input in the variable name because then I'll know what I'm getting and what's going to be stored in there. Because we know it's just a string we're getting, we don't need any int, so we just have input. Then we can ask the question, what is your name? If we do a /n at the end, it means that when they're going to answer, it'll put their answer on a new line. And now we're going to print out hello plus name. So it's going to ask me my name and it'll print it out. So you can see it needs a space. So you just input that, try it again, and you can see that it works. Okay, so our next one, ask the user to enter their age. Tell them how old they'll be in 15 years' time. So this time we're going to get an age, but we know it's going to be an integer. So we need to change it to an integer. So if your screen is blurry, it's just because you just might need to refresh it. We've had that in earlier sessions, so it just might be your internet. But if it's going blurry, just refresh the screen. So we've got the age and we want to know how old they're going to be in 15 years' time. So we do a new variable, age in 15, and that's going to be age plus 15, which will give us the new value. And now we want to put all this into a string. So we will do print and we have to remember that because they're both integers, we need to cast them to strings before we concatenate them. And we'll try that. So how old are we? 45. You're 45 years old, and in 15 years you'll be 60. Perfect. So that one is working. Try another age, 32. And in 15 years you'll be 47. So number 6 is asking us, combine the two input statements above and print out the message, hello name, you are currently age years old, in 15 years time you'll be aging 15 years. Because we've done 4 and 5, we can reuse some of our code. So we need to get their name, so we can get this input here. We just need to make sure we take the comment out. We need the age. We need the age in 15 years. So we'll take all of this, put it in here, and then we just need to amend our string. So we've got and because name is already a string, we don't need to change that. So hello name, you are currently age years old, and in 15 years you'll be. So let's test this out. So because I haven't commented this one out, it's starting to run that first. So I'll press stop and rerun. So I'll input my name, I'll input an age, and we've tested it and it works. So that's just a way of reusing some of your old code to create some new code. Okay, so we've got number 7. Ask the user to enter their hometown. Print it out in uppercase letters. So we want an input, and we will call this one hometown. And input what is your hometown? And because we want it in uppercase, we're going to print hometown dot upper, and we'll try run that. So what is your hometown? Manchester, and it works. We can do the same and try lower. Run that, and it works both ways. Okay, next one. Ask the user to enter their favourite colour and find out the length of the colour they input. So we'll create a new variable, we'll call this one favourite colour, and then we're going to ask for an input which is a string, and ask what is your favourite colour. And we're just going to print out the length of the favourite colour variable. So I'll try this. Okay, so then we can make it a little bit nicer by putting it into a string. So we could say your favourite colour is, and the length of it is, and because length is going to give us an integer, we have to make sure we cast it to a string first. So if you have a look, we've got an invalid syntax, and that's because what can you see why the error is? Correct, it's missing the underscore. Right, let's try it again. We'll pick a longer one. We've got purple. So we just add some spaces. And that looks a bit nicer. Right, next one. Number 9. Ask the user to enter the weather and the month. Print out the string, it is month and it is weather today. So we're going to need two inputs. We're going to need an input for the month. So we have month input. What is the month? And then the weather. What is the weather like where you are? And then we can put it all together and print out. It is month and it is let's try it out. So it's May and it is sunny where I am, and that's worked. We could try it again. I know in April it is usually rainy, and that's worked as well. You could change it and take weathers if you always want it lower. So April and it's rainy. So that's just another way that you can refactor your code. Okay, number 10. So I think this was just missing the end part on the Twitch page, but you can create any string you want. It doesn't have to be what we've said. It can just, as long as you're kind of using the variables in a string, that's fine. So we need 5 different temperatures and the month. So we know that the temperatures are all going to be integers. So we'll just go through the days of the week. So we'll get so that's 5, but we need to make sure that we change the name of our variable. And we'll also change the days. So we've got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So we've got our 5 temperatures, and now we need a month. So we can use our month from here. So that won't run until I remove the comment at the top. So when I remove the hash, that means it's live again. Okay, so now we've got the 5 temperatures, we need to work out the average. And to work out the average, you add them all together and divide by the number. So we'll put average temperature, create a new variable. And here, because we know that with the order of operations, if I didn't use brackets, it would divide before they added them together. So I've put it into brackets so we can add all our values together. And now we're going to divide them by 5. And now we can print out our string. So we can put it all together and put in month the average temperature was, and we'll use our average temp variable in here. Okay, so let's try it out. Okay. Right, the temperature on Monday was 54, on Tuesday was 34, Wednesday it went 23, Thursday we got sunny, and then we got cold on Friday. And it is May, and we have tried to concatenate an integer to a string, so we just quickly cast that to a string. Input some temperatures. And there we go. We have a average temperature. Okay, so now we have number 11. We're going to print out the above sentence but make the month uppercase. So we can copy our code because we're only making a small change here. And we can just use our upper function in there. And we'll test it again. And that's worked, so that's good. Okay, on to number 12. Create a variable that holds your favourite animals and print it out, making sure the animals are all on different lines and tabbed. Okay, so I'll call the variable favourite animals, as it's clear what is getting held in there. And I'll create the string my favourite animals, and then I want a new line, and I want to tab my first animal, can be a cat, then a dog, and then a rabbit. And then I will print out favourite animals and see what happens. So that's worked. Because we've used the /n first, it'll put it on a new line first and then it'll tab it across. If you did it the other way around, it would tab it and then put it on a new line, so you wouldn't be able to see the tab. Okay, and our last question is ask the user to enter their name as well as a number, print out the uppercase character at that position in the string. Okay, so that we know we need to get two user inputs. One is going to be a string and one is going to be an integer. So we'll create a name variable and we'll get the input, what is your name? And then we'll ask them to give us a number. As we know this is going to be a number, we'll put int input. Please input a number. And then we want to print the uppercase character at the position that they give us in the string. So what we need to do is we need to print name, then we're using our square brackets because it's going to be the index, but it'll be whatever number they provide to us, that will be the index that we pick, and then we're going to use dot upper to make sure it's uppercase. So you can run that. So we've just got an error there, run it again. So we can put a name, we'll put an input, and then it gives us the third index uppercase. Okay, so they are all the questions that we had for last week. So I'm going to just go to Slido and see if we've had any questions in the meantime. Okay, cool. Okay, is there any way we can send our code if we're using PyCharm, or do we need to copy it all into REPL? So as long as you're able to send it to us, that's fine. I don't mind in which medium you send it, as long as you can send it so we can check that all the code. So number 2, I'm not sure how to do question 12, so we've just gone through that, so hopefully that'll have cleared that up. Number 10, ask the user to enter 5 different temperatures and the month, work out the average temperature and print out the string. This is the question. So for that one, we've shown you what string we've used, but you can always pick whatever string you want when you're creating these. We don't mind as long as we can see that you're using the variables and putting it all into a sentence. Why do syntax errors keep coming up? This is what I've done for question 7. Hometown equals input. What is your hometown? Print hometown dot upper. So that all looks good to me, but what I'll do is I'll put it into my REPL and see what I can see. So that all looks fine to me. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure what your syntax error was, but if you do have a syntax error, state the actual error on here and we'll be able to help you. So what is unexpected EOF while parsing error? Print len Python. This is my code. So we can see here, so EOF means end of file, so it's the last thing, and we can see here that they're missing a bracket on the end. So if we put that into our REPL and run it, we're getting an error because it's missing the extra bracket. So if we put the extra bracket on the end there, it works. If you have a long code and you only want to run the small later section, how do you do that? So that is where comments come in. So here you highlight it first and then you press Command/ if you're on a MacBook, or Command Control/ if you're on a Windows, and that's how you can comment out all this part just so you have your last section running. What is the website you go on for coding? So we use REPL.it for this course, but you can use others if you want. How can I change one letter to capitals rather than the whole word? So to do that, you're going to use your index. So if you have a word and it's Python, and you only want to print the T as an uppercase, you're going to print word and then whatever position it has as the index, so that's 2, and then dot upper, and that'll print your uppercase T. Can you please go over the length part that we did last time? Okay, so this is the question. So question 2 is when you can, if you go over and have a look at length. So there's 2 ways to do it. So you can either just print len and then the string you want to check the length of, or you can create a word and do len and then the name of the variable that has got your string in it, and you'll get the same answer. When making a sentence with a string and a variable, can we use formatted strings? Yep, if you want. I accidentally deleted all my work and it's saved. Is there any way I can get it back? I'm not sure. I've never had to do that on REPL, so you could maybe ask REPL themselves, or you can just do the code again. It'll give you extra practice and you can have another go at it. It is a problem if at second exercise I wrote length equals len Python print length. Nope, you can call your variables whatever you want. As long as it works, that's fine. When you concatenate an integer, do you always have to put str before? Yeah, because they don't understand, your computer doesn't understand adding a string and an integer, so it won't allow it. So if you want to add a string and an integer to print out a sentence, you always have to put str before. Hi, when using print lines, can a comma be used instead? For example, rectangle of width instead of plus sign. So if you ever get questions like this, I always say just try it for yourself and see what happens. But we can try it for ourselves and see what happens while we're here. So you are asking if you can just put in So you can see it's worked there. So yep, there's just two methods. I'd not use that method, so again what I do is just try it for yourself and see what happens. Will we be learning any GUI things using tkinter or turtle? No, I don't think so. We're mostly focusing on writing the code and doing it from REPL. When you concatenate, do variables which are integers have to go in brackets but regular word variables don't? So the reason they go in brackets is because you have to cast an integer to a string. So a word is already an integer. Is already a string. Usually, so if it's just some letters, it's going to be a string. So you don't need to change it because you can add that together when you concatenate. But integers are usually in brackets because you're having to do str. So if you have a look at this example, these are all strings, so you can just add them without putting them in brackets, but because you have to cast these variables to integers, you have to change them and cast them using str, so therefore you have to put them in brackets. I'm sorry, could you go over question 13? I glitched out when you were going over it. Yep, no worries. Let's have another look. So your number 13 is asking the user to enter their name as well as a number. Then you're going to print out the uppercase character at that position in the string. So the position is the number that they're going to give us. So you can get the name by getting input, what is your name? The /n at the end here will make sure that when I'm getting an answer, it puts it to the next line. If I got rid of this, it would just do it straight next to it. So I just like the way it looks better. It's just personally how I prefer it. Then we have a number. We know that is going to be an integer, so we put int around input and then ask, please provide a number. And then we're going to print out the name, and then the number that is provided will be the index, so that'll point to whichever letter the customer wants, and then .upper will change whatever's here to uppercase. So if we ask for a name, and it's Rima, and the number is 2, it's going to give us an E, because that's the second index is an E. Okay, so that one's done. How will the certificate come to us? So once you've completed all the REPLs, or all the code that we give you over the next 10 weeks, once you've done that, we'll give you a link, you'll send us all your code, we'll check it, and then we'll send you a PDF version of your certificate. If you've come through a school, then we can, at the end, we can speak to your school and send you out some hard copy of the certificates as well. The comma question, you don't seem to need to use str var name, you can use the integer straight without changing it. Okay, cool, so that's a good statement. For my Python, the name highlights the aim but not the n, and it won't work. Also, I'm not sure where to put float, string or int. I have failed the questions. Okay, so I've gone through all the questions today, so rewatch the video and see what I did, which should be able to help you out a little bit more. And also, if you get any actual errors, send the actual error through and your bit of code, and I can help you with that. This one, it's a bit vague, as I'm not sure where to put float, string or int. If you go back to the first lesson is where we go through what a string, what an integer and what a float is, so that might be able to clear it up a bit for you. Is input always a string even if we ask for age? Yep. So no matter what, an input is always going to receive a string, even if I ask you So it's printing out 4, but it's printing out 4 as a string, it's not an integer. So if I then wanted to do, let's say, double age equals age times 2, and then I want to print out double age, okay, so say the age is 30. It's not timesing it by 2. It's just providing us the age. And that's just because it can't understand that it's a integer. It still thinks it's a string. So anytime you get an input, it's always going to be a string unless you cast it. So unless you've done flow or unless you've put an int at the beginning, it'll always see that it's a string. How will we send you our code? Will it be through email? So again, you don't need to worry about this till lesson 10. At lesson 10, we'll give you the information. We won't be giving the information prior to that. So you don't need to worry about it till week 10. In question 13, what happens if the number entered is bigger than the length of the name? So again, with questions like this, just try it in your code. Just see what happens, because that's the best way to test things. But I can just show you. So what do people think is going to happen? So for this question here, in question 13, what happens if number entered is bigger than length of name? What do you lot think is going to happen if I enter a number that is going to be bigger than the length of the name? Yeah, it won't run. We'll get an error, and I'll just show you that error now. So let's pick a long name. Quentin. And Quentin has got, so if I put in the number 9, it just tells you string index is out of range. So if you put in something too big, it just won't work. That's all that'll happen. In the later weeks, we can show you how to ensure that people only put in the inputs that you want, but we'll do that in the later weeks. Hi, I cannot run my other code in my main py folder. It only prints the first code I made. I'd have to look at this to get further information. Only code in your main.py file will ever run. So if you create things down here, nothing will run, only things in your main.py file. So if you're going to write any code, just keep it in your main.py file, and it should run. Make sure that if it says stop at the top here, stop it and start it again. Maybe refresh it, but just make sure all your code is in main.py. I've done task 13 a bit different. If the name was Joe and you put in 2, it would be is this okay? 100%. If you're getting the right output but you've done it in a different method to me, that's completely fine. We don't mind how you get there, but if you get the right result and you're showing us that you've worked it out, that's perfectly fine. My PC has low space. Can seed it through not my email. I'm unsure what that one means. Do we do the questions to get the certificate? Yeah, to get the certificate at the end, you need to do all 10 weeks worth of code with us, and then at the end of the 10 weeks, we'll provide a link where you can send us your REPLs or your code, and we'll check it, and if it's all good, then we'll send you a certificate. Again, it doesn't have to match ours. You can have done it in your own way, that's fine. How do we get the PC to what it? Not sure what that means. I don't understand question 10. So let's have a look at question 10. Okay, so question 10 was you're asking the user to enter 5 different temperatures and the month. You want to work out the average temperature and print out the string in month the average temperature was temperature. So the first thing we did here, if you have a look at the code, is we got 5 different temperatures and we made sure that they were all integers. Then we got the month, and then to work out the average of something, you have to add them all together and divide by the amount. So because we had 5, we added them all together, divided by 5, and then added them into our string. So what I'd do if I was you is I'd try this code for myself and see what happens. How do you know we deserve the certificate if you are showing the answers and we do it? Well, you're doing it. That's the main thing for us. So if you take the time and the effort to type out all the code and you understand it, that's fantastic. Why do the mods always mute people for no reasons? Because the whole point of this course is just to get everyone learning Python. So that's what we want to focus on. Can you do number 13 again, please? Mine isn't working. So I can show you the code for it, and then you try it, and if it's still not working, send me the syntax error, because that's probably going to be the easiest way. Or copy and paste your code into the question. Okay, so let's go to number 13. So here it is. So the first thing we're doing is we're getting a name. The second thing we're doing is getting the number that the user provides, and then we're going to print the name, and then we're using our square brackets here because it's an index, so we could hard code it and just put in a number like that, but we want the user to pick, so we've put in number because they'll provide that here, and then dot upper, and don't forget the 2 brackets with dot upper. Can anyone join, even those above 18, to receive the certificate? 100%. There's no age limit. We've kind of created the course thinking 13 plus, but we've taught this to people of 65 when we've been teaching it face to face. So as long as you complete it all, that's fine by us. We don't mind how old you are. Names equals input. What is your name? Name length. I'm not sure what this one is asking me. Next step, denser war. Okay, why does name equals input age? What is your name? Produce an intact error. Let's have a look. So I'll split these into different lines. It's because you've got... Okay, let's get rid of this. I think it's because you're not stating anything here with it. It's an invalid syntax, so you could just do... Okay, so let's put this on the right lines. It says because of an unexpected indent, so let's try take that indent out and run it again, and it's worked. So maybe it was just that you had an indent. Okay, someone on the chat says they're confused with, in question 13, shouldn't we put number -1 as if someone says 1, that index would print the second alphabet, right? Well, with question 13, we want the user to input the number, so we've not hard coded it, so that's why we get the user to input it. Okay, so it's number 6. Let's have a look at number 6. So number 6, the first thing we're doing is getting the name. So name equals input, what is your name? Then the second line, we're getting an age, so we have to make sure that's an integer because we're going to be adding 15 to it. And if we don't change it to an integer, we can't do any maths with it. So then the next one is age in 15, and that's age plus 15 years. And then we're going to print hello plus the variable name plus you are currently plus the age, but we need to cast that to a string, and then we're going to add years old, and in 15 years you'll be, and then we add the string, we cast age in 15 to string. So that is question 6. Okay, I still don't understand what /t does. So all it does is tab. So if you look at this one here, where we did my favourite animals, if I get rid of the /t's, we'll see the difference. So if we don't tab, so /t tabs it along. If we don't tab it along, it just puts them on new lines. And then we can run that. And you see that /t tabs it along. I don't understand the int, string and input. Because of this, I struggle to complete the question. So you just need to make sure that you rewatch this lesson. Watch lesson, so if you rewatch the lesson from Tuesday, we go through all that. So if you've missed that lesson, this probably won't make sense to you what we're doing. So I'd go back and rewatch that and then rewatch this, and it should help. An input will always be a string. If you want to change anything to an integer, you have to put int around it. But if you want to change it to a string, you just put str around it. What does type error unsupported operand type? That means you're trying to add an integer and a string, or you're trying to do something with 2 different data types. So make sure that when you're doing things together, they're both the same data type. Did I get an answer for the question about age plus equals 15? Because I can send you all the code. Yeah, you can send us the code and we'll look at it, and I should be able to help you with that. Why doesn't this work? So let's have a look. We'll copy and paste it into REPL. Okay, it's because you're missing your int here. Let's try that again. Okay, so it's because you're missing a bracket at the end there. So you just need to make sure that you've got your int input. If you're going to use a number, it needs to know that it's still a number. So that's why you have to cast to an integer. This is a bit of a sad question. The person that keeps repeating it would think you were older than that, but maybe not. So these lessons are always about an hour. We try to go through the questions, and then again any questions you have. For the question 13, can you tell the person to put a number either the same or lower than the amount of letters in the name? Yep, and we'll be looking into that. It'll be looking into that a bit further. I've watched them, but it didn't explain where I put them. Okay, so I think that's to do with the string. So I've gone through them a couple of times in this lesson today, but here's an example that you can look at, and it's on here, so you can look at it after this lesson. But a string is anything that has quote marks. An integer is always a full number. You can't add an integer and a string together. So I'm going to get rid of this str here, and I'll run this. Okay, so we'll enter some temperatures. Okay, REPL's running very slowly for me right now, so I'll just... Okay, so you can see here that you can only concatenate a string to a string. So when you want to do things, they have to be the same data type. So the way you use it is you put str to change something to a string. But again, I'd go back and watch the lessons from this week, because it does definitely go through them. Okay, so we're nearly at the end, and I will go through these, and what I'll do is I'll reply to it on here with your code, so then you can see what I've done and what the error was. But that's us for today, so thank you all for tuning in. And let's have a look. So if you do have any questions, you can go to our Slido. I'll be checking them. I'll go through them again tonight and I'll answer them. So if you do a question and it's in between now and Tuesday or Thursday, I'll answer on Slido. So if you check back at the end of the day, I'll have answered it, and then you can go and have a look. So the next session is Tuesday the 19th of May at 10 o'clock again, and we'll be going on to lesson 3. Okay, so if there's no more questions, this question, I'm going to reply to it now, so just give me 5 minutes and I'll put it in there. Otherwise, I'll see you all next week. Have a good weekend. Bye.